Welcome to Beyond the Beef, where we not only talk about business problems, we talk about business solutions. So James.
Yes, Bob.
What's the beef we want to talk about today?
Bob, I have a beef from one of our viewers.
Hey, good.
Yeah. She actually wrote in, and one of the things that she said she would like us to talk about is people stealing other people's ideas or thoughts or work. She said, could you talk about this a little bit? She's been having it going on in her organization, and she doesn't know how to approach it, what she should do about it. So I figured I'd bring it up on our show here and we talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, so this is more around like kind of taking credit for something.
Taking credit for somebody else's work.
I've heard this and felt it, and you know,
sure.
it is a common theme. I'm glad this was brought up because throughout my whole career, it is something, whether it's the boss taking credit for your stuff or another coworker or whatever else. I think there's a couple of sides to it. So the first thing that I would say with this is sometimes you think that your ideas are totally original, but they're really not.
Well, that's a good point.
You know, and it's interesting now that we do the consulting stuff and
Sure.
we do a lot of writing and thought leadership and that type of thing. There are so many things that I write about, and I'm like, wow, this is totally weird. This is so cool.
Right.
What a brilliant,
How
brilliant thought.
could anybody have ever thought of something as genius as this?
Wow. Right. And then you come to find out that it's been written about 200 times
Sure.
by like a lot of different people.
Sure.
And even down to quotes. I mean, when I was writing my book, did I ever mention
The book?
that I have
Creative Strategy Generation?
that one?
That book?
I have a book.
His book.
Well, when I was writing such
Sure.
book, I was thinking about clever quotes that I could put in there, and some of the things I came up with, like word for word,
We're the same as...
were already out there. They were already quoted,
Sure.
and I promise you, I hadn't read it.
Sure.
And we see this in music too, right? How many lawsuits you see on copyright
true.
infringement?
That one recently.
There's been a lot
Sure.
in the news on that, and
Sure.
it just gets to be more and more because there's only so many chords and so many notes and so many thoughts, right?
Right.
So I think one of the things to think about is that even though you think that these might be totally original thoughts, maybe they're not. It is quite, quite possible that somebody else thought of the exact
Sure,
same thing
that's a
that
good
you
point.
did. So that's one thing. I don't know. Do you have any experience with that yourself?
Yeah, I actually, so I agree, and that's actually a really good point, right? It's a good point that it could have been another thought that's out there already. The other side is I sometimes have seen that people need to open their mouth a little bit more as well. Right. So sometimes people have great ideas and they have great thoughts, and they really view as say, oh, we should approach it this way. This is how we should go down this path, and maybe they open their mouth a little bit to a couple people, but they don't say it to a larger group. Yeah. And then when somebody does, it's, oh, they stole my idea.
Right. They don't do it.
But they've never taken the taken the initiative to go out and present that as their own idea as it is.
Yeah.
So you kind of talk about it here and there in smaller groups, but because you don't have the gumption for whatever reason, you're not saying it in front of the larger group, somebody else does, and you can say that they're stealing your idea.
It's a really good point because it's not just about the idea.
Right.
It's about actually doing something with the idea.
Exactly.
And that's a big thing. I mean, I can tell you, I've probably invented half the things that you see, like as seen on TV. Oh, I invented that.
I thought of that a while ago.
Yeah, that was mine.
What does that get you?
Nothing, because I didn't actually go ahead and do it.
Right.
And that is a big theme in business. You actually have to execute on your ideas. And if you don't, yes, someone's going to take the credit for it.
Sure.
Well, either because they're doing something with your idea, which is great, or because they had that idea, but they actually took it forward.
Some action on it.
Yeah, so that I think is an important piece as well. Now, with that said, there are many situations that I have been involved in where somebody does actually take credit for something that they didn't do, and a lot of times that's a manager. Yeah, exactly.
Yep, typically that's management.
So what do we do about that? That is something that happens.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. And the first thing I would say, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts too, but first thing I would say is, and I've actually been in this scenario. Many years ago, I've had a manager, I had great ideas, we would talk about things, I would, present things, and then he would walk and go into a meeting and claim it as their own and say, oh, they did this, this, and this.
Yeah.
And it bothered me quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And I approached the situation probably a little bit more abrasively than I should have, to be totally honest with you.
But with the manager
with
directly?
The manager directly.
Oh.
Yeah.
How'd that go?
It didn't go very well because of how I approached it. I'm not going to lie to you.
Did they admit that you...
They said, what happened was he said that he presented it as it was his team. Oh, my team did this, this, and this. But everybody else, had said, oh, this person, don't want to use any names, this person said their idea, what a great idea it was, what a great idea. I said, hold on a second. That was that was a conversation we had. At least give credit to your people.
Right.
At least, keep the motivation going, because you start stealing these ideas and claiming them as your own, you're killing my motivation to have any new ideas and great ideas, right? Because you're just going to claim them as yours anyways.
Yeah.
If it's not a teamwork sort of environment, and hey, this is what my team we thought of, and kind of that collaboration piece.
Yeah.
So I do think the approaching the person is probably the right step to say, we're a team here. How you do it is obviously something you need to be cognizant of as well as you go about doing
How
it.
did you do it?
I did it the wrong way.
Like what? Exactly.
I walked into the room and I said, hey, we had this conversation.
Hey,
I
jerk.
said this. You walked in and said it was all yours. It wasn't your idea. You weren't even thinking of it yourself. You told me what a great idea it was, and then you left and claimed it as your own. I was furious.
You okay?
Sorry. You did this on purpose. You're trying to get me riled up.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But here's another thing that I would give a perspective on, and why approaching it that way is completely wrong, is because some managers are probably really jerks. Others may not be thinking about, well, I should give credit to this, because I've been in that situation where I don't want to single out somebody in a certain thing. So if I went in and I said, well, James had this great idea, then it looks like the rest of my team is crap, and so there might not be bad motivations behind it. So I think that's really good advice. Like, okay, talk to the person about it, get their side. Like, and this seems to be a common theme, doesn't it? Just communicate.
Communication.
It's one of the things we keep talking about.
Absolutely.
But talk to your manager and say, hey, I didn't feel good about this. Can you explain what's going on? And maybe next time give me a shout out.
Exactly.
And I think it'll go better. So I think those are some pretty good things to wrap up with. Absolutely. If you are a manager, make sure that you're giving your team the right level of credit. Do it in a positive way, because people want that. If you are on the other side and you think someone's stolen your idea, number one, make sure it's an original idea, because very few of those actually exist.
Absolutely.
And number two, if you feel that someone has stolen your idea or not giving you due credit, talk to them.
Right.
Talk to them in a
and speak up
positive way.
too, right? If you have a great idea, don't be afraid to talk about it. Speak up,
yeah,
say in front of groups. Be outgoing in your career, because that's what's going to help you be seen as a leader with great ideas, and not afraid to come out and present them in front of people. It's really going to help out in your career.
Absolutely, forgot that one.
Yeah,
Probably the most important one, right? Execute.
Speak out. They do
Execute on your ideas. Just having the idea is only a very small part of the picture. You got to make it happen.
Absolutely.
So I think that's great.
Perfect.
Fantastic.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Please don't forget to subscribe and comment below. And thank you once again for joining
Beyond the Beef. Thanks.
Clear. Because it's that vodka you just poured in a cup.
No vodka.
It's vodka.
Too early.
It's never too early.
It's always fun.
I'm just kidding.